Hello, and welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends, brought to you by the Publicity Works Agency, devoted to promoting musicians and authors worldwide. Call us today at 941-877-1552 to start your free publicity evaluation. Remember, we shine only when we make you shine. Please welcome the host of Interviewing the Legends, music journalist, author, and entrepreneur, Ray Shasho.
Hello once again, everyone. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. Welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends on BBS Radio, brought to you by the Publicity Works Agency. Call us today at 941-877-1552 or email us at publicityworksagency.com. Remember, we shine only when we make you shine. And by the Rockstar Chronicles, Series 1, my new book, featuring over 45 intimate conversations with the greatest music legends the world will ever know. Available now at bookbaby.com and amazon.com. Legendary proto-punk guitar heroes James Williamson and Deniz Tek have joined forces for a brand new odds-defying studio album, 2 to 1, set to be released September 18th by your old pals at Cleopatra Records. An inductee into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, Williamson was the guitarist and co-songwriter for one of the most iconic and influential albums of all time, Iggy and the Stooges' Raw Power, while Tek launched and occupied the same role for what became Australia's ground zero for the punk movement with his band and revered Radio Birdman. The album features 11 all-new original compositions, highlighted by the first single, Stable, and the explosion lead-off track, Jetpack Nightmare, which is one of my favorites. Williamson had this to say about the project. It was really a lot of fun working with Deniz to make a no-frills, good old-fashioned guitar album. Took me back to Raw Power and Kill City days. Deniz comes from a very similar approach to music that I do. Both of us have many years of experience in Detroit and Ann Arbor, Michigan. Tek adds Raw Power shaped my path as a young guitar player. It was great to partner up with James to make this album. Everything fell into place beyond expectations, the songs, the band, the production, and even the timing. I am very happy with it. 2 to 1 will be available on CD, digital, and in your choice of red, blue, yellow, or classic black vinyl. Coming soon on Cleopatra Records, release date September 18th. Please welcome American guitarist, songwriter, record producer, electronics engineer, and member of the iconic proto-punk rock band, the Stooges, James Williamson, to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, James.
Hey, Ray. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, man. Iggy has been around so long and has the staying power. It must be great to, be associated with that band.
Oh yeah, well it was more than a band for me. It was kind of like a family, really. We went back with each other a really long ways, and so it was a really important part of my life.
And now you're hooked up with Radio Birdman legend, which I probably kind of saw it coming because. Didn't they get their name from a Stooges song, from a 70s Stooges song?
Yeah, they actually misheard the lyric.
Really?
Radio Birdman. So, Deniz had many connections with Stooges because for a period of time he lived in Ann Arbor.
Right.
And he knew Ronnie and Scotty and, the family actually. And and although he's a little bit younger than all of us, not that much, but a little bit, then he moved over to Australia. His father took a sabbatical, was a University of Michigan professor, and took a sabbatical over in Australia, and that's how Dennis got over there in the first place. So, yeah, he had a lot of places where he crossed paths with Stooges people, but oddly enough, I didn't ever really know Dennis back in the day. Only when we went and played a tribute show for Ron Ashton, kind of a memorial show. Dennis was asked to play a couple of the old songs because he knew them all, and that's the first time I met him, probably in about 2011.
We all know the best garage rock bands in the world come from Michigan. I mean, the list goes on. MC5, Grand Funk Railroad. I know Susie Quattro. Remember her band with her sister and all those guys started back in the day. I just wish music was like that today. Just finding bands in garages and promoting them and putting them on the radio. Those were good old days, man.
They were, yeah. The late '60s and early '70s in Michigan was just wall-to-wall music, and that the good part about that was that the bands were all good, and the reason why they were all good was you couldn't last very long if you weren't good because there were so many good bands, and the people just wouldn't tolerate it if you weren't up to that level.
Yeah, I always debated, should the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame have been in Michigan instead of Cleveland? I guess their answer for that is Freed, because I guess he came from there. But, of course, Michigan's got Motown and all the, Alice Cooper and all you guys. I mean, that could have been a long debate if somebody had brought it up.
Yeah. Well, the good news is that no matter where the Hall of Fame ended up, the good music was still coming from Detroit.
Exactly. That's the truth, man. That really is the truth. But let me take one thing I wanted to say about Dennis. I did some research on him. Is he actually? He's a trained ER doctor and ex-Navy flight surgeon. Is that true?
I think he did ER in the Navy. I don't know about flight surgeon.
Right.
I know he actually, yes, he was in the Navy for a while, and he was actually got to fly some jets occasionally. Not that wasn't his main thing, but when he was actually a Marine.
Wow.
So that's part of the Navy, and when you get to be working with the guys, the pilots and stuff as much as he did, then you have to know how the plane flies. So they'd get him to fly and stuff. So yeah, he is definitely a man of many talents.
Rock stars are very intelligent. I mean, besides the music, they're artists. Look at, Brian May, he's an astrophysicist. Look at you. You designed computer chips, man. How did that go?
It went wonderfully. I mean, I never regretted my career in technology. I got kind of, because I got involved in it when the personal computer was just beginning.
Right.
And so I kind of got to ride the whole wave of, the PC, the internet, and I was I am still in Silicon Valley. And so I, got a front row seat for all this stuff happening and exposure to all these people. And I just had a blast. It was a great ride.
Well, me and you had something in common. I was in retail electronics. We had a family business since the early 60s, and I was the last one to close back in the late 90s. I had a business in the J.W. Marriott Hotel in D.C. I was born and raised in D.C., in that area. And we did a lot of business with Sony. Bought tons of electronics. When the Sony Soundabout, the Walkman first came out, we had it. The first disc player came out, we had it. First video camera, we had it. tons of electronics we bought from Sony, and you worked for Sony, right?
Yeah, I did. I started out in Advanced Micro Devices, which is a chip company. Right. But I ended up, about the last 15 years of my career, I was at Sony. And, Sony is an amazing company.
Yes, they are.
I ended up in corporate, and so I was working with all the different business units. There's pictures, there's music, there's electronics, and it just covers so much territory, and it's such a westernized country. I mean, the people working at Sony are, like first class guys. So I really enjoyed working for that company.
Yeah, Sony no baloney, right?
That's right.
All the good stuff came from Sony, and of course they were all made in Japan back then. Then they lost the quality when they started making things back in Korea, And but the original stuff, I mean, when the Walkman first came out, the Soundabout, which we sold for $250 when it first came out, I was blown away. There was nothing like that.
Yeah, well, it's the world today has been a challenge for everybody because of really China. The people that when they used to make that stuff, like you say, in Sony in Japan, right, it was very high quality stuff.
Very high quality.
And it's not to say that it isn't anymore, but just the economics of production changed underneath them and everybody else. And so the things have started to become commoditized, and it was very difficult business for everybody.
When Gorbachev came, he came to D.C., and they had the national press for Russia, and everybody else was set up right below us. My store had the National Press Building was above us, so we knew all the press and everything. And when Gorbachev came, all his guys from Russia, I was on coast to coast ABC radio because of that, but all the Russians were looking for Sony. And back then, they were making that transition, a lot of the transition to made in Korea. They didn't want any part of that. If it wasn't made in Japan, they wouldn't buy anything.
Well, the smart guys.
Yeah, exactly. They used to try to trade caviar, for electronics. And we did bargain a little bit and barter. It was kind of fun back then. The new
that must have been interesting to get to see Gorbachev.
Yeah, I saw his motorcade. You wouldn't believe the size of his motorcade. Oh my gosh, it was crazy. We took a lot of things for granted living in D.C., but we saw. I saw back then it was Ronald Reagan was the president. I think the next president should be a rock star. What do you think?
Well, they couldn't do any work. I better not say that.
Yeah, we don't want to go there. I'm tired of politics, to be honest with you. I want to bring the music back. I want concerts back and live music, man. It's been rough.
Yeah. Well, that's actually been one of the upsides of this record getting out. I ended up mixing it in February, and I was just about ready to get it mastered, and the shutdown came.
Yeah.
And so I couldn't get it mastered, and so I wasn't sure when I could get this record out, and luckily Cleopatra had some contacts with guys that had operations out of their home that were good, and so I was able to get the record mastered, and then also fortunately there was a lot of backlog of records right at that point because most bands were holding their records back
exactly
in hopes that they could tour them, and of course none of that was happening, and so anyway I got to go to the front of the line, and now we got this thing coming out in September.
Well, it's a great album. I think I'll give it 5 stars. I loved it. It reminded me a lot. It's high energy. It's got fun lyrics. It reminds me of the 70s, with underground rock, new wave, and punk. guys like Ian Dury and the Blockheads, Lou Reed, of course, the Stranglers. And you guys have that kind of fine line between punk and rock, and kind of like an MC5 sound in a way. The Stooges, of course. What do you think? Do you think you guys?
I agree. I don't think. I don't even refer to myself as punk.
Right.
I mean, I think we influenced a lot of punks, but I'm more of a rock guy.
Right.
And so, I'm flattered to hear that, and I think this album, I produced it, and one of my goals was not to overproduce it, just to make it, straightforward, guitar-based,
Yep.
and just sound good. And I think that's what it is.
Well, you're an excellent guitar player. Dennis is the vocalist, fantastic. You guys are a good mesh. You collaborate well together. Some of my favorite songs on the album, Melissa Blue was a really cool song. It sounded a lot very, very Lou Reed to me. I love the lyrics, Anchor Tattoo on her breast. One of my favorite songs, I think, on the album. I really enjoy that.
Well, that's good to hear. That's actually a bonus track on the CD versus the vinyl album, but it does have a thing about it.
It does. It's very catchy. It's something you don't forget. And like I said, Jetpack Nightmare, their guitar riffs and lead on that is very powerful. One of my favorites as well. Take a look around. You have a great female singer. The female backing voice on that one. And
that's Petra Hayden and Andrea Wass.
Right. Excellent. And, take a look around. The world is upside down. I mean, it kind of fits, doesn't it?
Yeah, a lot of this stuff works really well for the current time we're going through.
Exactly. Climate change kind of, I don't, you kind of refer to a little bit like Ramones, even though Iggy Pop was definitely way before. The Stooges were way before the Ramones. It kind of reminded me of a song they would do. Small Change, another one, Liar, cool track, No Dreams, very, very cool album. Now, the songwriting, was that between both of you, or how did that work out?
Yeah, I think that as it ended up, if you include the bonus track, I think I had 6 songs on there, and Dennis had 5, but
right.
5 and 5 on the vinyl. And, it's I think it's well balanced, the type of song that Dennis writes versus the type of song I write. They blend well with each other, so that the album is interesting all the way through.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a very interesting album. Keeps your attention for sure. I mean, I enjoyed it a lot. I thought it was an excellent album. And you guys teamed up before on an EP. You did I Need Somebody, which also, excellent song.
Yeah, that was the first time we tried to do anything together. We just did a few songs that I had already written with Iggy,
right?
And we just redid them acoustically. But that was a fun record to do too.
Do you think you're going to continue working with Dennis after the album?
Well, I don't know. We'll continue to be friends for sure. And we once we got to know each other, and he actually lives full time now in Hawaii.
Oh wow!
I'm there frequently, and so we're on the same island. So we got to be pretty good friends over the years. And I don't know what we'll do next year. I haven't got that far yet. But glad to hear you like it.
I love the album, and I also dug deep into your the Careless Hearts.
Yeah, the Pink Hearts.
The Pink Hearts, right.
Oh, you mean there's also Careless Hearts too.
Right.
That was the very beginning when I was just coming back into music. I needed to have a band, to kind of play with. to get the hang of live shows because I hadn't played one in so long. So that band offered me, to their services to be my band. That was the Careless Hearts, and then of course the one you're referring to, the last full album was the Pink Hearts, and that was a little couple years ago.
The Pink Hearts is also, I listened to Behind the Shade, which very cool album as well. I was really impressed by that as well. And you got some great players. You got Petra Hayden, great vocalist. Where did you meet those guys from with that band?
Well, the singer Frank Meyer is somebody that I had used when I did a record called Relict, which was essentially a record of all the songs that I had written with Iggy towards the end of the band, and that we had played them all live, and they were all bootlegged like crazy, but we had never made the record because CBS wouldn't renew our contract. So I decided, okay, well, I'm gonna do all those songs right because I hated the way the bootlegs sounded, and I'll do them with different vocalists on every song. And so that's what I did. Relict is essentially that, and it turned out great. And when we played Relict live, I needed a singer for a particular song. I didn't get all of the 13 singers to show up for the live gig. And Frank sang, and he was fantastic. He reminded me, actually, he was very influenced by Terry Reid. And anyway, he somebody I remembered, and I used him on other things going forward. And also, Petra Hayden was the first time I had used her, was on that album as well. And then of course, the drummer I use now, Michael Urbano, was on Relict as well. And so, you pick up these people as you go along, and I always keep the good ones if I can.
Yeah, this album should have done a lot more than it probably had. I would have promoted the hell out of it. I'm still going to promote it a lot because it's an excellent album. It comes out firing with right on the strip. Very powerful tune. I like Judith Christ. Is that how you, not Christ, right? Christ?
Chris, yeah.
Yeah. And another great tune. There's a lot of good ones on there, and that's what happens. That's what happens when you self-release stuff. Right.
It's just not the same kind of promotion that a label will do, even a small label. So it's that's the fate of that kind of approach.
I like Frank's voice on "You Send Me Down." He sounded. I just had Jimmy Hall on the show not long ago from Wet Willie. He reminded me of Jimmy Hall a little bit on that song, and early Van Morrison, maybe. His voice. Very, very cool record, man. Very cool. It's and again, it's called Behind the Shade. It's all over YouTube. I mean, anybody can, check it out. Got to talk a little bit about Iggy and the Stooges, of course. How come Iggy never wears a shirt?
I can't really tell you that. I mean, he started all of that long before I was in the band, and it's his thing. I guess it worked for him. I mean, I think it's a little tough to look at these days. He's on the other hand, he's been a very fortunate guy throughout his career. His physique has been, has held up pretty well.
Right.
But it's just, nobody can escape, what happens to your skin and, your veins and everything else. So, it's his thing, but it's sort of wearing, I think, now.
Yeah, when you guys are together now, it's like he's still after that kind of old-fashioned punkish type look, and the other guys are starting to look like bankers. Because, you got that background now. You were in corporate America all these years, and it kind of shows, because I was in corporate America for 15 years. I was in banking industry, and so I know how it is. But you start to looking like them.
Well, it's just that I have to look the way I look. I mean, the thing is, I don't really have. I have a different context in my life, and so I have to be who I am. But I think Iggy is, he has to be like he's never been anything else, so
right.
He has to be that.
Exactly.
And it was kind of a unique mix of people, but I think it sounded good though.
Yeah, it does. I mean, it's incredible. I love it that you guys ended up in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Because there's so many bands that should be there that aren't there, and who knows if it's political and just a bunch of guys picking their favorite bands and whatever. But I'm so glad you guys ended up there because you deserve it.
Yeah, well, of course it is political, but the thing was, the Stooges got turned down 7 times too, and so it was like, we were getting to the point of where we were going to sort of say, declare victory that we were too good to be in the Hall of Fame, and sure enough, then we got in.
Amazing. Well, Raw Power was one of my favorite albums, and it's one of the most iconic, covers. Front covers on an album, amongst all these albums. And you were very fortunate to be on that album, which is excellent.
Well, not only that, but it was my first album, so I was really fortunate that worked out so well.
Exactly. It was a good time, about 1973, I guess. What happened between the David Bowie thing? There was some tension there, right?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't think that you can work with David Bowie or Iggy without creating some tension somewhere along the line. Uh-huh. But I think in terms of the Raw Power itself, it's a mixed bag. Raw Power had a lot of technical flaws, and in the end, it was too much of a mix for Iggy to handle. That was my first album, so I didn't have any experience. I wasn't going to try to do that. But so they brought David Bowie in to do the mix, and of course, he at that point especially, he was very arty type guy, and he put his fingerprints on it, and it was a very strange mix. Now, granted, he didn't have a lot to work with. I mean, there was a lot of leakage in the drum tracks and the bass tracks and so forth, and so he had to really bring those down, and people complain about that, but of course it made me sound great, because you could hear there's just guitar and vocals, which is kind of what Jack White has made a career out of doing, but nonetheless, so there's been a lot of controversy about that mix, and I frankly think it's the right one because it's the historical mix, but Iggy did another mix, and different people like different things. That's not my favorite mix, but anyway, and then over time, Iggy saw David Bowie as kind of his meal ticket, the gravy train, and so he went over to Europe with him, and they toured together then after a while and made some albums together and so forth, and I think that that ran its course, and they sort of didn't really, there was, as you say, some tension there, but I think then later they sort of mended fences and stuff, and now of course Iggy, is very complimentary towards Bowie.
Right. So you didn't really like the mix too much, huh?
You mean Iggy's mix or Bowie's mix?
Bowie's mix.
No, at first at first actually, we all hated it.
Right.
But then I got accustomed to it, and I think since it's actually the historical mix,
right,
I think it's actually, you like it or not, that's the one, right? And so you really, there's not much else you can say about it. A lot of people, there's controversy to this day about it,
Yeah.
But it is what it is, and I think it kind of made the album sound different from anything ever, and it still is different. And I think what it really shows is that no matter how you try to screw up an album, if the songs are good, it's going to sound good.
Right. You're a producer. What makes a great producer, in your opinion?
Oh boy, that's a complicated question, but I think probably the most important things are to know when to take a project and when to turn one down, because every producer cannot produce every act,
right?
And you need to only pick the things I think that you really want to work on, because it's a lot of work for one thing.
Sure.
And I tend to only do stuff that I'm involved in personally, so I know that early on I did do New Values for Iggy, which came out great, but then I also was asked to do Soldier, which I started doing, but I just hated so many things about it that I ended up not being the guy to finish the project.
Right.
And so I learned in that process that just don't take every one, because if it's not right, it's not going to work. And so I think that's kind of key. And then you need to understand the music and understand where you fit in the whole picture.
Are you involved with the engineering process as well?
No. I know enough about it to, I'll say things, but I'm not actually engineering these records anymore. There's so many guys that are better than me, So I try to leave it to the people who really know what they're doing to do that stuff. And I'll put in my 2 cents worth here and there, and I do have an impact on things, but for the most part, I also, don't try to influence things to the point where the good things that the engineer can bring are left out.
Right. Some of those boards are massive, man. I don't know how they keep track.
Oh yeah, well, yeah, it can be. On the other hand, if you're doing it right, you don't need all that complexity.
True.
I mean,
that is true.
Not in the kind of music that I make anyway.
Yeah.
Some of the instrumental heavy stuff that people make is a whole different bag, but I don't do that anyway.
Yeah. Or the complicated stuff, intricate stuff like progressive rock and symphonic rock. That's got to be tough, on a board. Johnny Marr, I guess from the Smiths, and he was in Modest Mouth. He's got. I love this quote he says about you. He says he's lauded Williamson's ability. I'm his biggest fan. He has the technical ability of Jimmy Page without being as studious, and the swagger of Keith Richards without being sloppy. He's both demonic and intellectual, almost how you would imagine Darth Vader to sound if he was in a band. Does that describe you?
Well, I don't know, but I appreciate it. Johnny's a nice guy. He really is, and he's a hell of a good guitar player too. A different style than me, but he's a good guy. Yeah.
Now you went away for the music industry probably about 30 years or so before you came back when you were.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
That's incredible. That's a long time, man.
It is, and it's what's even more astonishing is that when I left the music business, nobody liked us. And we played very small shows.
Right.
I mean, shows like the Whiskey a Go-Go and stuff. And so when I came back to play, my first show was like 30,000 people, 40,000 I think maybe.
Exactly.
And I was like, it was just a completely different world. So yeah, I mean, I was away a long time, and coming back, I was just like, Rip Van Winkle. It's like things. How could things have happened like this? But it was true.
One thing, Iggy got real popular on, commercial radio when he came out with Real Wild Child, Wild One. That was a big hit. It was on Crocodile Dundee 2, Adventures in Babysitting, Problem Child. So that was huge for Iggy. To cross lines like that and get into commercial. Yeah.
Well, and oddly enough, even the stuff from Raw Power was getting into commercials and so into movies. Yeah. So it was pretty amazing. Do you write something 40, 50 years ago and it becomes current? That's very strange.
Exactly. Well, time changes things, I guess. You were outside in France. I saw a video of you by yourself on the street doing some Stooges music. You know what I'm talking? How did that work out?
It was not actually real busking, but I was doing it, kind of an imitation busking. And I had a lot of fun doing that. It was actually, it's illegal in Paris to do that if you don't have a permit. But I did it for very briefly to just to have the video, and it was fun. Nobody gave me any money though. That was the problem.
Did they know who you were?
I don't know. Hard to say, but anyway, that was fun.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. To see you out there. They didn't show the crowd or anything. They just showed you doing some great music, which was really cool.
There wasn't any crowd. There was people walking by and stuff and trying not to pay attention to me.
Yeah, you're doing Raw Power, right?
Yeah.
And that was in Paris. I think that was in Paris.
Yeah, it was in Paris, yeah.
Yeah, pretty cool. Here's a question I ask everybody, and it's a very interesting response I get from a lot of people. If you had a Field of Dreams wish, like the movie, to perform or collaborate with anyone from the past or present, who would that be?
Oh boy, that covers a lot of ground.
I know, everybody says that.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess if I was going to just have a kind of person that I've always looked up to, and I've met him before. I'd say I'd like to play with Jeff Beck.
Oh yeah.
I think he's an amazing player and a nice guy too.
Right.
And so that might be interesting. Beyond that, I kind of, the trouble with my style is that I don't leave a lot of air for people. So to play with me is a little more challenging than it might seem because I'm taking up all the air.
It's true.
That makes it kind of rough. So I'd say that's probably, I think Jeff Beck can pull it off because he does a lot of, wild stuff he's fantastic.
Yeah, he's a great musician, with a great past. It's funny that, he was fired from the Yardbirds.
Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
He's got his own way of doing things.
Yes, he does. I was fortunate to have John Mclaughlin on recently, and that's another guy I admire. Where all the things that he does everything his way.
Yeah.
And, yeah. He's another innovator, I guess, of the music and fusion and all that stuff. So, love interviewing guys like it, especially also like you. Great guitar player. A cross between a little bit of punk, more MC5 type, rock and hard rock stuff, But very unique. You guys were very, very unique, you know, and you never got bored of Stooges music, that's for sure.
Yeah, that I think that came from, the people, of course, but the band itself was also really, especially at first, was kind of its own self-contained world. Mm-hmm. So we didn't talk. I mean, we had our own language. It was like a little gang, you know. We didn't really try to get influenced by the outside. We influenced ourselves internally, and that's part of the big difference with the Stooges. But also, in my particular style, I also was self-taught, and I had come up writing my own songs and playing a certain sort of emotive, type sound, which is really still what I do to this day. I kind of play this kind of hard, emotive sound. It's built into my style, so I can't really do anything else. So I'm happy that you like what I do.
I do like it. Yeah, I love it. I love the new album and everything else you've done on the solo albums as well. How many guitars do you have? Are you one of those guys that collects a lot of guitars?
I have too many for sure, and the odd thing is I really only record with essentially one guitar, which is a Les Paul Custom.
Yeah.
And I do when it comes to acoustics, I do also like to play a Martin D28, and those are my primary guitars, my go-to guitars, and I fiddle around, like. I guess I played one, telly on, the Pink Hearts thing, but I don't really record them and play them that much. And so why I ever got them, I have no idea. It's kind of a disease guitar players get, but that's really what I only play is those two guitars.
That's funny. I play a little guitar. I've always played tellies. I've always been a Fender guy, and I've never picked up a Gibson. What do you think is the main difference between the Telly and the Gibsons?
Oh, kind of everything.
Yeah.
The old standard Telly is not, is the Fender Telly style pickup, the single coil type pickups,
right.
and the Gibson pickups are typically humbuckers, and so it's just a completely different sound. The Gibsons the Les Pauls are very heavy guitars, so they're big slab of wood, and so you're going to get a lot more sustain out of them. And the Tellys are lighter, and they tend to be, kind of where they started was guys that were doing chicken picking, kind of, country guys.
Yep.
And they're nice to play. And I've owned them over the years, but I just like that big sound with the sustain. So it just works really well for me, especially through a Vox AC30. To me, that's the sound. Mm-hmm.
What about the as far as playing lead? Which one feels better as far as playing lead to you?
The same thing. It's a Les Paul.
Les Paul.
I get much more sustain out of the Les Paul than I do out of the Telly. It's more, it's kind of more, I don't know, for a different type of style than I have. But it's a good guitar. I mean, like a lot of guys like Jeff Beck have used them, to great effect.
Yeah, I had a 73 Telly. I had a Gibson Flying V. I did have a Gibson. I had the Flying V. But that's a different guitar altogether.
Yeah, well, that's a cool guitar.
Yeah,
but it's hard to play. Usually, the action is really bad.
It is hard to play. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, but I always love the way they look.
Yeah, it is cool. Very, very cool. James, you got anything else for me that you want to promote? We got the new album coming out. It's September 18th. Now, you can pre-order that now, correct?
Yes.
And
yes, you can.
Where should they go? Should they go on Cleopatra Records? Should they go on your website?
Well, you can do Cleopatra or do Amazon, depending on where you live. You know,
okay.
The shipping might be better, and there'll be lots of other distribution that's done on it as it gets a little closer to release.
Well, it's a great album. I gave it 5 stars. Everyone's going to love it. You guys mesh very, very well together. What else can I say more about the album? I'm going to promote the hell out of it for you.
Well, Ray, thank you very much. I appreciate that you like it that much, and I appreciate your helping to get the word out on it.
Of course, man. We got to keep rock and roll going. Keep it alive. It can never die. Never die. And what about you guys going to go on the road when all this crap is over, or what? What do you think?
Well, hard to say, really.
Yeah.
It's kind of a moot point right now. But, my touring days are pretty much done with.
Right.
I've done a lot of it now, and I hadn't intended to, but, I'd never say never.
Right.
For sure, I might do a show, the odd show here and there.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, Dennis still tours, and so it's quite possible he might, do some of this album himself.
Yeah, exactly.
He plays guitar and sings, and so there's no reason for him not to.
Right. What about Iggy? Iggy still touring as well?
Well, not these days, but of course, he has been doing a little bit. I think, especially for what he does, it's rough. I mean, it's really, really rough, and he's had to pay dearly for how physical he's been over the years.
I can imagine.
I don't know how long he can do it. I really think that. I mean, I wouldn't do it. Let's put it that way. You can't get me to, stage dive, in my mid-70s, right? That's kind of crazy if you ask me. But I don't know. What else can Iggy do is the problem.
Not much more. He's done it all.
That's what he does, right?
He's done it all. It's funny how many rock stars have gotten hip replacements, and knee replacements. Yeah, that's crazy. I was playing with my grandkids, and I tripped over one of those gates, and it broke my shoulder and separated it, and I had to have surgery, and I can't even get out of the house without hurting myself.
All right, Ray. Well, I'm going to let you go, but
all right, man.
Again for all of this.
Sure.
It's good talking to you.
Good talking to you too, James. Take care, and take care of the family and everybody.
You too.
All right, man. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Purchased a new album by the Stooges, James Williamson, and Radio Birdman's Deniz Tek, entitled 2 to 1. It's coming soon on Cleopatra Records. The official release date is September 18th, but you can go ahead and start pre-ordering now at Cleopatra Records, or you can go to Amazon.com. For more information about James Williamson, visit www.straightjameswilliamson.com. That's his official website. He's on Twitter, www.twitter.com/straightjamesw. Go to Iggy Pop's website at www.iggypop.com. Iggy's on Facebook as well, www.facebook.com/iggypop. Deniz Tek's official website, www.deniztek.com. That's DENIZTEK. Radio Birdman's official website, www.radiobirdman.com. And also Cleopatra Records, www.cleopatrarecords.com. Very special thanks to the great Billy James of Glass Onion PR for arranging this interview with James Williamson, and the dynamic duo of Doug and Don Newsom of BBS Radio for making the magic happen for each and every broadcast of Interviewing the Legends. If you have comments or suggestions for the show, please contact me at interviewingthelegends@gmail.com. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Interviewing the Legends with Ray Shasho, for the very latest interviews right into your inbox. It's real news, people. And, of course, my new book is finally out, entitled The Rockstar Chronicles, Series 1. Chronicles truths, confessions, and wisdom from the music legends that set us all free. Order yours today on hardcover or ebook, and that's the collector's edition hardcover, Beautiful hardcover, by the way. And you can get those at bookbaby.com. There's a special deal at bookbaby.com for both the hardcover and ebook together. And the book features over 45 intimate conversations with some of the greatest rock legends the world will ever know. Stay safe, everybody. Be happy. Have a great week. Peace and love. Bye-bye now.
Thank you, everybody, for listening to Interviewing the Legends, brought to you by the Publicity Works Agency. Call 941-877-1552 or visit us at publicityworksagency.com, specializing in author and music artist publicity plans. We shine when we make you shine. Tune in to Interviewing the Legends every Tuesday at 7 p.m. Pacific Time on PBS Radio, Station 1.